Hello, hello, and good evening, everybody. I'm Meteorologist Edward Shaw, and obviously, we got some snow to talk about, and some ice, and just overall, a very impactful winter storm coming in this weekend. Let's get right to it. That Weather Authority alert day in effect for Saturday and Sunday. Here's why. That winter storm, likely going to be a powerful storm coming into the area here late night Saturday and into Sunday. Now, with that being said, the northern half of the state likely going to be blanketed with snowfall, but the biggest concern for us right now is the fact that we may be in for a crippling ice storm along the Virginia-North Carolina border that could extend up into the Roanoke Valley, the New River Valley, and possibly into the central part of the state as well. Looking right now at what we're seeing, it is about 8:46 right now when this is being recorded, and you'll notice that at least 76 million people under winter storm watches for this system that's coming in here in the next few days. That line of showers that you see right there, that is not our storm. A few snow showers coming in later on tonight, further up to the north, and then maybe a few isolated showers for the region, but that is not the system whatsoever. The setup for the storm, bringing in the ample moisture from the Gulf, the cold air wedge behind the mountains, that's going to be a key player in exactly what we see here come Sunday, and then that Arctic blast from the north. Again, cold temperatures, the moisture, we have it all there. It's just going to be a matter of how it plays out. So, with that being said, there are two main scenarios with this storm. There's the first scenario, think of it like a scale. Take one end of the scale that's got snowfall. We get more of that, and you're going to get less ice within our area. However, the opposite can also happen. Scenario one is the one where we see significantly more snowfall and significantly less icing. This is the outcome that the GFS figures in and wants to output. However, the opposite is also possible, and if anything, I think the opposite is more likely. The European model favors this scenario where we get less snowfall but substantially more ice, especially in the southern part of the state. Let's time it out for you with Futurecast. This is the European model. In terms of timing, I think this is pretty spot on as to what time we can expect this storm to arrive. You'll notice as this system starts to build in with more moisture, the cold air is locked in place further to the north. We have substantial rainfall along the Gulf Coast of Texas and Louisiana, with freezing rain, sleet, and snow further to the north. Now, once this system starts getting closer to our area Saturday night, we'll start to see our first few snowflakes fall. That's when we get into about midnight, and then this is where things start getting dicey going into Sunday. You'll notice as that cold front starts to push further to the east, the snow is actually being influenced by a little bit of a warm nose higher up in the atmosphere, which in turn is turning a lot of it into sleet and freezing rain. This is going to be a very crippling storm should this outcome come possible, as it goes into the late day Saturday or Sunday, bringing in substantial ice. Now, the odds of getting 3 inches or more of snow have certainly shifted. We were looking at numbers that were in the 70s and 80s in terms of percentages in South Side. So what's changed then? Well, we're going to get to that in a second. Still a pretty good chance. We see over 3 inches of snow in parts of Roanoke, Bedford, Lynchburg, even out towards Narrows, and in parts of the New River Valley. South Side likely not going to be the case. But then look at the odds of 6 inches or more. Up towards Hot Springs, further to the north of I-64, I think that's the sweet spot for any snowfall we end up seeing. If you really want to see some major snow, that's where you need to target. Further to the south, not going to be a record-setting snowfall, likely not going to break that streak for consecutive days without 12 inches or more of snowfall in Roanoke, but we'll still get some measurable snow. But it's not the snow that I am worried about. It is the ice 100%. So, why exactly are we looking at more ice now? Well, let's go through that. This is a rough estimate of what we can expect going into Sunday. By this point in Roanoke, you notice that our 850 millibar temperature, that's about a mile above the surface of the Earth. It's at 28 degrees. So we're good there. Snow all the way through. However, we go later into the day, and that changes over into temperatures that are greater than 32 degrees. About this point at 8 p.m., we're looking at temperatures significantly above freezing, about 38 degrees here by 8 p.m. The surface, still at 31. Below freezing, this is going to be the point where we start seeing snow turn to ice. Let's compare this to Southside. Southside has a much more significant outcome. 3:45 in the morning, this changes over to above freezing, and in turn, once more, temperatures aloft likely going to be in the 40s, which is a very unusual setup, which, again, likely going to see some substantial melting in that layer of the atmosphere before refreezing at the surface, which is going to lead to that ice threat, both with sleet and freezing rain. Going into Saturday night, that's going to be the start time where we start seeing snow come into play. It's going to be cold throughout the day. It's going to be cold throughout Sunday as well. But Sunday's where stuff starts to change a little bit more. Again, we mentioned the wintry mix starting up in the early morning on Sunday before transitioning over to just sleet and ice later in the day for most of the region. Again, if you're up towards the Highland Zone, I'm not exactly worried about the ice as much as I am further to the south. But the icing potential with this storm, doesn't matter if you get 4 inches of snow, 2 inches of snow, whatever. The amount of ice associated with this storm is enough to be concerned. We're going to get a winter storm. There's no question about that. It's just going to be how much of what precipitation type we end up seeing. And with this case, I am very worried about the icing potential and the potential for power outages and slick roads. Just going to be a mess overall. So for the actual snow forecast, 2 to 5 inches further into Southside for most of the area and southern parts of the New River Valley. Into the Roanoke Valley, the New River Valley, and east towards Lynchburg, expecting somewhere between 4 to 9 inches. I know these are large gaps, but that's where we're at in this forecasting process. These are going to get smaller as we go into the next few days, and we'll be able to refine it more with more of the short-term model data. Further to the north, in the parts of the Highlands, and even further to the north of that, likely going to be expecting more than about 9-10 inches of snowfall come the next few weekend. Now, again, 23 Saturday, 21 Sunday. Cold enough at the surface for both days. Overnight lows are going to be in the teens and eventually single digits going into Monday night. Here's something I want you to be mindful of looking at the 7-day forecast, and that's going to be the fact that we're not above freezing Monday or Tuesday. So regardless, this could be a complete ice storm, complete snowstorm. We're going to be stuck with whatever precipitation we get for the days afterwards. Certainly the sunshine will help, but the fact is we're going to be dealing with the aftermath of this storm here going into the early parts of next week before we eventually start trending a tad bit warmer to close out next week. But overall, going to be a very inclement storm system to the region. So if you can take anything away from this video, it's you want to be prepared early on, stay calm about it, and also just take care because you'd rather be safe than sorry, especially when it comes to ice and a storm that has the possibility to knock out power for possibly days at a time.